Welcome to my actual play video. My name is Roosevelt Cooper from Golden Acacia Gaming. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate to you how you can use the Mythic Game Emulator 2nd Edition to play a published adventure for your favorite tabletop role-playing game, either solo or with a group, without needing a game master. In this particular video, I'm going to be playing the brand new 2024 Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, and the adventure I'm going to be playing is called The Meeting at Deep Night. This is an adventure that is included in D&D's Adventures League, and we're going to be playing this adventure today. So the first step to playing a published adventure using Mythic is you need to create your list for Mythic. And Mythic uses 3 different types of lists when you're doing published adventures. The first list is called Threads, and that basically is going to include any type of task that the characters are attempting to solve. The second group is Characters, and that includes any NPCs or any important elements that could pop up again in the adventure. And then the last component is Adventure Features, and that's pretty much designed to identify any type of characters or monsters or NPCs that could produce reoccurring. In this adventure, I'm going to be using 4 level 1 characters, a fighter, a cleric, a rogue, and a wizard. Now, when you're playing with Mythic, when you generate the first scene is going to be based upon whatever the introductory scene is in the pre-published adventure. So we're going to go ahead and play that scene out right now. All right, so let me go ahead and read the opening scene. You were told that Madame Ferona's tea kettle was the place where adventurers could find work and avoid the hassle associated with other places in Phlan. So far, that has been true. Madame Fiona, a stout and officious halfling who runs the establishment with her 5 daughters, has proven an excellent hostess. Although you have had to share a common bunkroom with several other adventurers, the evening meal was excellent and the atmosphere pleasant. You are prepared to bunk down for the evening when one of Fiona's daughters peeks into the room. She calls a few of the adventurers, including you, into the hall. "Pardon my interruption," says the halfling girl named Reese, one of Fiona's 5 daughters, just shy of adulthood. "A chap just came into the common room downstairs and asked me to fetch you. Something about some coin needing to change hands for an easy job." She plays with her curly red hair nervously. So Roten, my fighter, he asks her, "Did he say any information about the job?" And she replies, "No, he didn't say anything." So then Thorin, my cleric, he says, "Well, I guess we should just go ahead and find out what he wants." So my 4 adventurers, they head over to the common room to meet this strange individual. So when you're playing using a pre-published adventure, you get to decide where the scene ends. I'm not going to have the scene end here because we didn't really find out anything other than this person is looking to hire people and she didn't know anything about the job. So we're going to continue on to meet the individual. And if there are any questions that you need to find out about that the pre-published adventure doesn't specifically say, then you can use a fate chart to find out that information. I didn't really see anything in this particular scene where that was necessary, but just keep in mind you can use a fate chart. So when the adventuring party heads to the common room, they see a hooded figure alone at a large table. The figure motions to them as they descend the stairs. The figure keeps his face obscured by his hood and speaks in a low voice, obviously disguising it. "Thank you for meeting with me. I am a member of the Harpers. And then he shows a brooch that confirms his ties with the Harpers. I have a mission for you that you are in a unique position to complete. We have captured a merchant who is going to illegally purchase a red dragon egg. We want you to pose as the merchant and go ahead and complete the purchase on our behalf. We also want you to plant a magical device on one of the sellers so that we will be able to track them down at a later point in time. He points to Roten, my fighter. You bear a strike resemblance to the merchant that we captured, so we want you to pretend to be the merchant. The rest of you can be hirelings that work for the merchant. The mysterious agent pulls out a small sack and opens up the sack for the adventurers to see. The sack is filled with diamonds. These are fake diamonds that you can use to purchase the egg. They're worthless, but they look real enough to be able to pass a cursory inspection. He also pulls out a small silver pen. This pen is the magical device that you will use to plant on the sellers so that we will be able to track them down later. You are not to use your real names with the sellers. You will just simply refer to yourself as the buyers. And under no circumstances should you fight the sellers or harm the egg. The point is to track the sellers down, so killing them or harming them will be counterproductive to our efforts. If you successfully complete this task, we will pay you 200 gold pieces for returning the egg back to me. So my wizard asks, well, what time are we to meet with these sellers? And the agent responds, the meeting is scheduled to take place right now, so time is of the essence. So then my rogue, she's like, well, I guess we better get going then. So the Harper agent gives the characters a small pouch of fake diamonds, the magical silver pen, and directions to an abandoned barn on the northern outskirts of Phlan. The adventuring party decides they're going to go just head on over to the barn since they don't have a lot of time. The meeting's supposed to be scheduled right now. So they're going to go ahead and head on over to the barn. So we're going to conclude the scene right there. First thing we are going to do is take a look at the list to see if any lists need to be updated. The threads is purchase a red dragon egg and place a magical device on one of the sellers. So that is the threads list. For the characters list, we're going to have the Harper agent. And then for adventure features, we do not have any adventure features at this time. Last thing we're going to do is we are going to update the chaos factor. So for the chaos factor, we decide were the characters relatively in control of the scene. If yes, we lower the chaos factor. And if no, then we increase the chaos factor. So I believe the characters were in control of the scene. So we're going to go ahead and lower the chaos factor from 5 to 4. All right, so that concludes the first scene. All right, so now we're at our second scene. So in Mythic, before we continue on with the second scene in a published adventure, the first thing we have to do is we need to test the scene to make sure the scene goes as expected. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to roll against the chaos factor. To roll against the chaos factor, we're going to roll a d10. If we roll greater than the chaos factor, which right now is 4, so if we roll a 5 or higher, then the scene will take place as expected. if we roll equal to or lower than the chaos factor, then there will be a random event that will occur as a part of the scene. So let's go ahead and roll on the chaos factor. I'm going to roll a d10. And I rolled a 3. So a 3 is below the chaos factor. So the scene is not going to take place as expected. There will be a random event that will occur as a part of this scene. All right, so when determining a random event in Mythic, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to identify what the event focus is. So when doing a published adventure, Mythic has a separate table that you roll under to determine what the event focus is. That table is specifically designed for prepared adventures. So we're going to roll on that table. It's a D100. So I'm going to go ahead and roll now. All right, so we got 62. 62 is PC negative. So basically what that means is something negative is going to happen to one of the player characters. So since we have 4 characters, I'm going to figure out what the negative event is going to be. And then based upon that, we'll then determine which character is the negative event going to happen to. All right, so next we're going to roll on the event meaning table. So the event meaning table is going to help us to determine what negative thing is going to happen to one of the PCs. So the event meaning table has 3 different tables: actions, descriptors, and elements. Because something negative is going to happen to the PC and we know that the next scene is going to involve the meetup, I'm going to roll on the actions table to determine what the negative event is going to be. So for the actions table, there are 2 D100 tables we're going to roll on to determine 2 different words. So first thing I'm going to do is roll on the first table. And I got a 71. 71 is punish. And now I'm going to roll on the second one. 84. 84 is strength. So the 2 words I got is punish, strength. All right, so I know exactly what this is, and I'm going to save that because I don't want to spoil the scene for you right now. But I know exactly what this is, and so I will have that take place when we go through the event. So basically what you're going to do is you identify the 2 words, and then based upon the 2 words, you can decide what you think the negative thing is going to happen and to which PC it's going to happen to. To determine that, you're going to use what is taking place in the scene to determine what context that the negative event will happen to the PC. So I'm going to go ahead and play the scene out, and then when we get to the point where I decide that this is what's going to be the PC negative, then I will tell you that so that you know what I interpreted the event is. But if you're playing this by yourself, you're going to have to make that decision on your own. So for example, let's say punish strength. That could be a random attack against the characters. And you can have that occur before the scene takes place, or you could have it occur during the scene, later on in the scene, towards the end of the scene. Whatever it is, you don't want it to be something that's going to take you completely off course from the pre-published adventure. You just want to add it to the current context of the pre-published adventure. All right, so let's continue on with the scene. It is a 20-minute walk to the meeting place. When the adventurers arrive, the sellers are already waiting at the abandoned barn. The barn itself is a simple open structure. 30 feet wide and 80 feet long. A ladder at the end of the barn, opposite the open doorway, leads to a hayloft 10 feet above the barn floor. The loft is 40 feet long and the entire width of the barn, directly above the end of the barn, opposite the door. Rusted farm implements lean against the barn walls. There are also burlap sacks on the wall near the ladder opposite the main entrance. The seller is an elf woman who waits with 3 human men. When the adventurers enter the barn, the seller calls for the adventurers to halt when they get within 20 feet of her. A sinewy elf in gray clothes smiles at 3 humans behind her. I told you they would come. A dragon egg is much too valuable to pass up. The elf turns back to you. Now, let's do this quickly. Here is what you asked for. She holds a very large hide backpack towards you. You throw the payment over to me, and we will leave the egg here. We will exit the barn, and then you can leave after 5 minutes have passed. No fuss, no muss. She pauses and looks at you more closely. Hold on, something is not right here. She looks at my fighter, Roten. I thought you were going to be taller. Roten responds, well, to many people who look at me from afar, I can be a very intimidating presence, so I may seem to be taller than what I actually am. So with that, I'm going to have Roten make a deception check to see if she will buy that story. I'm going to set that DC at 10. And Roten rolls a natural 20. So she definitely buys the story. So she's like, okay, that makes sense. So then Roten says, well, hold on. I want to check the egg first to make sure that you're not trying to fool us. And he points to our halfling rogue, Tasha, and he says, go check the egg and make sure it's real. And the reason why Roten is doing that is because he's going to have Tasha try to plant the pin on the sellers. So I'm going to rule that they're going to allow that because Roten rolled a nat 20 on that deception check. So she is definitely believing anything that he's got to say. And so now Tasha goes over and takes a look at the egg. I'm going to have Tasha make her way over to the seller to take a look in the bag to make sure that the bag has an egg in it. So Tasha makes her way over to the bag. And while she's doing that, I'm going to have her make a sleight of hand check to see if she can get the pin on the seller. So Tasha rolls her sleight of hand check. And she rolls a 15. That's going to be enough. The DC is 10. So she takes a look inside the bag. And while taking a look inside the bag, she slips the pin on the seller. And then she responds to Roten, yep, there's an egg in there for sure. And she makes her way back to Roten. So now Roten is going to go ahead and throw the bag with the diamonds over to the seller. He goes ahead and does that. The seller then, in return, throws the egg over to Roten. So now the sale has taken place. The exchange has taken place. And then the sellers are going to make their way out of the barn. The exchange has taken place. The sellers are going to make their way out of the barn. And the adventurers are going to wait the 5 minutes as instructed before they make their way out of the barn. So our wizard Galadriel will take a look at the egg, and she's going to determine if the egg is a real dragon egg. So she's going to make a nature check. And she rolls a 24. All right, so she rolls a 24. and she's able to determine that the egg is a fake. A voice interrupts them, and a tough-looking half-orc male brandishing a mace appears in the doorway of the barn. The toll for passage out of this barn is that egg. I'm sure you will hand it over peacefully, so I don't have to take your lives instead. Roten is like, we're not giving up this egg. If you want the egg, you could fight us for it. And with that, we're going to roll for initiative. So now we're going to go ahead and roll for initiative. First, I'm going to roll for Roten. Roten gets a 4. Next, I'm going to roll for Thorin, who's our cleric. Thorin rolls a natural 20, but he's got a -1 to his initiative, so he gets a 19. Next, I'm going to roll for Galadriel, who's our wizard. Galadriel rolls a 12. Next, I'm going to roll for Tasha, who's our rogue. Tasha rolls an 11. Next, I'm going to roll for the leader of the individuals that are looking to rob our adventurers. Leader rolls a 5. And then I'm going to roll for the people that are with the leader. And they roll a 15. All right, so initiative is going to be Thorin, then the robbers that are with the leader, then Galadriel, who's our wizard, Tasha, our rogue, the leader, and Roten, our fighter, is last. Thorin, who's going first, is our cleric. All right, so Thorin is going to go first. Okay, so as of right now, we have the leader, and then at each barn entrance, there are 2 people who are also with the leader. So they basically have the barn surrounded. There's no way for the adventurers to get out without going through them. So I'm going to have Thorin cast Sacred Flame at one of the people who are at the entrance. So that individual is going to have to make a dexterity saving throw, DC 13. So I'm going to go ahead and roll for them. And they rolled a 17, so they are able to dodge and avoid the Sacred Flame. So that is Thorin's go. Now it's time for the robbers to go. And now this is where the PC negative is going to take place. So the words that I got was punish strength. So what that means to me is that all of the robbers are going to focus all of their energy in attacking one of the adventurers, which in this case is going to be, I decided is going to be Roten. So they are all going to focus all of their attacks on Roten to try to take Roten down. All right, so the first robber is going to pull out a light crossbow and fire at Roten. That is an 8. That's a miss. Second robber is also going to pull out his crossbow and fire at Roten. That is a 17. That is a hit. So they're going to roll for damage. The light crossbow does 1d8 plus 1 damage. All right, so Roten's going to take 3 points of piercing damage. And to the adventurer's surprise, there are actually 2 more people hidden in the barn. So the third one is going to try to drop a net on Roten. So Roten is going to need to make a DC 10 dexterity save to avoid the net. And Roten rolls a 3. So Roten is now restrained by the net. And as a result of being restrained by the net, he's going to now have the restraint condition. So with the restraint condition, Roten's speed is now 0 and cannot increase. So he's not going to be able to move at all. Any attacks made against Roten will have advantage. And any attacks that Roten makes will be at disadvantage. And Roten now also has disadvantage on dexterity saving throws. All right, and then so the last bandit is going to fire at Roten. And they're going to be able to do that at advantage. All right, so that is a Nat 1, which is an automatic miss for the first roll. And the second roll is a 5, which is also a miss. So Roten was fortunate. All right, so now it is Galadriel's turn. All right, so Galadriel is going to cast Magic Missile at the leader. So she's going to fire off 3 missiles at the leader. First damage is 2. Second damage is 5. So 5 plus 2 is 7. And then the last damage, so that's a total of 10 points of force damage that the leader is going to take. And Magic Missile is an automatic hit. So there's no way for the leader to be able to dodge that. The leader is going to take 10 points of force damage. All right, next is Tasha. Tasha is going to fire her short bow at the leader. Tasha rolls a 15. That is a hit. She's going to roll for damage. And she does 8 points of piercing damage to the leader. The leader is now bloodied. And now it is the leader's turn. The leader rushes in. And he's going to try to hit Roten with his mace. He's going to have advantage because Roten is still restrained. And he gets to make 2 attacks. So Roten might be in trouble here. All right, so the first attack at advantage is a 7 and a 18. So we're going to take the 18. That is going to be a hit. Leader with his mace attack does 1d6 plus 2 damage. So let's roll the damage. All right, so that's going to be 3 damage to Roten. Roten is down to 8 hit points. Leader's going to make a second attack against Roten. 17 and 9. We're going to take the 17. That's going to be a hit. We're going to roll for damage. So that's another 3 points damage to Roten. Roten is down to 5. And that is the leader's turn. So now it is Roten's turn. All right, so first thing Roten is going to do is he is going to use a bonus action to do second wind. So we're going to roll to see how much hit points he's able to recover. All right, so he's going to recover 6 hit points. So that's going to put Roten back up at 11 hit points. All right, and then the next thing he's going to do is try to break out of this net. So he's going to need to make an athletics check, DC 10, to break out the net. And he rolls a 10, just enough. So Roten breaks out of the net and is no longer restrained. So now we go back up top for initiative. And we go to Thorin. Thorin is going to cast Sacred Flame against the leader. Leader's going to need to make a dexterity saving throw, DC 13. Leader rolls at 11. That's not going to be enough. Thorin's going to roll for damage. And Thorin does 6 points of radiant damage to the leader. All right, next the robbers are going to go. First robber is going to fire the crossbow at Roten. That is a 6. That is going to be a miss. Second robber is also going to fire crossbow at Roten. That is a 9. That is also going to be a miss. Third robber in the barn is also going to fire a crossbow at Roten. 9, that is also a miss. And then the last robber in the barn is going to throw a net onto Roten. Roten's going to need to make a dexterity saving throw, DC 10. Roten rolls a 3, that is a fail. So Roten is now restrained again. Poor Roten. All right, next, Galadriel, our wizard. She's going to cast Magic Missile again at the leader. So that uses her last spell slots. We're going to roll for damage. First roll is a 4. Second roll is a 4. Third roll is a 2. So that's a total of 10 points of damage to the leader. And the leader is now dead. All right, next is Tasha. Tasha's going to fire her short bow at one of the bandits that are up at the top of the barn. She rolls an 18. That's going to be a hit. She's going to roll for damage. She does 5 points of piercing damage. All right, the leader's dead. So now we go to Roten. Roten is going to attempt to break out of this net. He's going to make an athletics check, DC 10. He rolls a 20. That is a success. He is now free. And then he's going to use his movement to head over to the first bandit by the entrance and engage that bandit to prevent that bandit from firing arrows at him. So that is Roten's turn. We now go back at the top of the initiative, and we have Thorin. Thorin's going to cast Sacred Flame at the bandit that Tasha hit. That bandit is going to need to make a dexterity saving throw, DC 13. So Thorin is going to cast Sacred Flame at the robber at the top of the barn that Tasha hit. So that robber is going to need to make a dexterity saving throw, DC 13. That robber rolls a 16. That is a success. Thorin misses. Now the robbers go. First robber is going to drop the bow. And in 2024 rules, you can't just drop and then draw and attack anymore. So they got rid of that. So that robber is going to take a dodge action. Second robber is going to fire at Roten. All right, that's an 8. That's a miss. Third robber is going to fire at Roten. That's a 7. That is also a miss. And the last robber is going to fire at Roten. That is a 12. That is also a miss. All right, Galadriel. She's going to cast Firebolt. She's going to cast Firebolt at the robber that Tasha hit. She rolls a 9. That is a miss. But now there's a fire that has broken out at the top of the barn. All right, next is Tasha. Tasha is going to fire at the robber that Roten is standing in front of, because now she'll be able to use sneak attack. All right, she rolls a 21. That is a hit. She's going to roll for the piercing damage as well as the sneak attack damage. So that's a 6 for the short bow damage. And that's a 3 for the sneak attack damage for a total of 9. So that robber is now dead. So next up is Roten. Roten is now going to head over to the other robber on the other side of the barn, and he's going to attack. So he's going to take the attack action using his scimitar at the other robber. First roll is a 10. That is a miss. And then he's going to use his bonus action to attack with his short sword in his other hand. That's a 23. That is going to be a hit. So that's going to be 6 points of slashing damage. All right, next is Thorin. Thorin is going to cast Sacred Flame on the other robber that's at the top of the barn. That robbers need to make a dexterity save, DC 13. That robber rolls a 2. That is a fail. Thorin's going to roll for damage. That's going to be 5 points of radiant damage. All right, we got 2 robbers left. First robber that Roten is engaged with needs to drop the bow. So he's going to take the dodge action. Second robber is going to climb down from the barn because the barn at the top is now burning. So he's going to climb down. Well, actually, before he climbs down, he's going to fire at Roten and then use his movement to climb down. So he's going to go ahead and fire at Roten. That's a 19. That's going to be a hit. Roten's going to take 5 points of piercing damage. All right. Galadriel's up next. She's going to cast a firebolt at the robber who is coming down from the top of the barn. She rolls a 22. That's going to be a hit. She does 4 points of fire damage. That robber is definitely bloodied. Tasha is also going to fire at the robber that came down from the barn. She rolls a 12. That's a hit. She does 6 points of piercing damage. That is going to be enough to kill that robber. And now Roten is going to first use his bonus action, and then Roten's going to use his scimitar. That robber's taking the dodge action, so Roten is going to roll with disadvantage. And even with disadvantage, roll 10 rolls a 20. So that's going to be a hit. That's going to do 9 points of slashing damage. And because Roten has weapon mastery with the scimitar, Roten can actually make an extra attack with this weapon, but it's not necessary because that first attack is enough to kill this robber. So the robbers are defeated. The adventurers are going to search the robbers, and they find 40 gold pieces on the robbers. And now they're going to get out the barn before the barn burns down. And they're going to head back to the inn. And we're going to end the scene right there. They have completed the first thread, purchased the dragon egg, and placed the magical device on the cellars. So we can remove that from our threads list. Characters list, no new additional characters to need to be added. And the chaos factor, they were definitely not in control in that scene. So we're going to increase the chaos factor to 5. All right, so now we are at the next scene. And so we have to identify the expected scene according to the adventure. So according to the adventure, the next scene is the adventurers will meet back up with the Harper agent in a stable behind the inn. So we're going to need to check the chaos factor to see if we are going to have a random event. Chaos factor right now is 5, so if we roll a 5 or lower, there will be a random event. If we roll a 6 or higher, there will not be a random event. So I'm going to go ahead and roll. All right, we rolled a 6, so there will not be a random event. The scene will play out as expected. So the adventurers make their way back to Madame Fiona's tea kettle. The Harper is waiting for the adventurers as promised in the stable behind Madame Fiona's tea kettle. Roten says, "We've done as you asked. We have planted the pin on the cellars and we have retrieved the egg as promised." Roten hands the egg over to the Harper. The Harper takes a look at the egg. Harper says, "This egg is fake, but that is fine. I will still pay what I promised you." So the Harper pays the adventurers the 200 gold pieces as promised. He also throws in a potion of healing as well. And that concludes the adventure. The adventurers were able to successfully complete the task as required. So after settling up with the adventurers, the Harper says as follows: "We have seen an increased interest in all things related to dragons. We have also heard of more dragon sightings in the Moonsea region and elsewhere. Keep your eyes and ears open for further information on dragons. It might save your life." All right, so this concludes the adventure. The adventurers were able to complete the task as promised. So I'm going to go ahead and add up experience points. So this adventurer uses XP system for the amount of NPCs, monsters, etc. that the adventurer is able to defeat. There's also a minimum and a maximum. So we'll go ahead and take a look. So they fought 4 robbers. Each robber was worth 25 XP. So that's a total of 100 XP. The robber leader was worth 100 XP. So that's a total of 200 XP for defeating the foes. 200 XP divided by 4 characters. That's 50 XP each. So each character is going to receive 50 XP. In addition to that, each character is going to receive another 50 XP for successfully planting the pin. and the maximum total award is 100 XP, so they are already at the maximum. So each character will receive 100 XP for completing this adventure. All right, so that concludes this adventure. Hopefully you now have a better idea of how to run an adventure using the Mythic Game Master Emulator 2nd edition and using a pre-published adventure for your tabletop RPG of choice. By utilizing this system, you'll be able to take advantage of all these published adventures that are out here for all these different RPGs. And you'll have an opportunity to be able to play them either by yourself or with your group without necessarily needing a game master. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed that. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave those in the comment section, and I will strive to get a response back to you as soon as I possibly can. Take care.